5th chapter of the book of the prophet Isaiah. And let us hear now the word of our God. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. For waters shall break forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. The burning sand shall become a pool, and the thirsty ground springs of water. The haunt of jackals shall become a swamp. The grass shall become reeds and rushes. A highway shall be there, and it shall be called the Holy Way. The unclean shall not travel on it, but it shall be for God's people. No traveler, not even fools, shall go astray. No lion shall be there, nor shall any ravenous beast come up on it. They shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return and come to Zion with singing. Everlasting joy shall be upon their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing shall flee away. Well, on a morning like this, in the midst of wintry weather, the idea of a way being prepared for us, I think, has a particular relevance and perhaps a particular sense of immediacy. We need a way in the world. We need a way in the world that will lead us from our place of origin to our destination. We need a way in the world that will provide a safe journey. And so, indeed, on a morning like this, that way may not seem safe at all, or the way may be one upon which we can pass. But we need a path in the world. I think that each and every one of us knows that. A path in the world can be difficult to find. It can be difficult to traverse. And that's why over the centuries, there have been aids to help us make that way from home to our destination, whether it was by following the stars at night, or maybe maps that were printed, or even now with our contemporary technology, devices within the car, GPS systems that guide us and lead us. But no doubt that we need to find a way, not simply from one literal destination to another, but within our lives we need to discern that way upon which we may walk. We need to discern that way upon which we may journey, a way that brings meaning and purpose, a way that allows us to feel the fullness of life and the joy of walking upon this earth. I read a biography of the remarkable painter Vincent van Gogh, and it was called A Stranger Upon the Earth, because in the midst of Van Gogh's greatness, there was, as you may know, there were great strugglings and great sorrows and great suffering, and he indeed felt like a stranger upon the earth, and that is all too often the case for each and every one of us within our lives. A way seems to be rocky, it seems to be dangerous, it seems to be difficult, or in those moments of great crisis, there does not seem to be a way at all. This idea of a path, this idea of a way for the people of God, is an image that is found in many different places, both in the Old Testament and at the beginning of the New Testament. You'll recall, of course, John the Baptist who himself cites the prophets of old, the prophet Isaiah in particular, when he says to those who are gathered at the River Jordan in his proclamation to make a path for the Lord, to make his way straight for the people to walk upon. And not only that, for the Messiah to walk upon, to come to the people. As we journey upon this way within our lives, seeking meaning and purpose, fullness of life, it is a way that is not a one-way path, but it is a way upon which the Messiah will come to us. And so we stand upon that road. We take step after step. We make our journey, trusting that indeed God makes God's own journey to us in the coming of the Messiah, in that one who is Jesus Christ. Now, if you were to map out the journey of the people of Israel in the wilderness, you know that when Moses parted the Red Sea, the enslaved people of Israel were able to pass through this wall of water and to reach this new land in search of the land that had been promised to them. Now, we know that the journey, it was a 40-year journey. If you were to take a large map of that region and to map out the route upon which the people journeyed to that promised land, it would not be a straight line. Amazingly, that 40-year journey in the wilderness, that way had not been made straight. The people of Israel wandered to and fro through the wilderness, ultimately coming to the land of Jordan that God had promised to them. It's important for us to consider this crooked path, this difficult path upon which the people of Israel traveled, because it is a reminder to us that the journey is not always straight and easy, but rather the journeys that we make within life are often circuitous. We can wander, we can feel as though our destination is nowhere in sight. And certainly that was the case for the people of Israel, who again and again complained to Moses because the journey was difficult. An end did not seem in sight. But they arrived by the grace of God that was given to them, and in particular to Moses the prophet, who did lead the people. This idea of a way being prepared, being set before us, is one that indeed fills the scriptures. It is important for us to consider because it is a reminder that God has a journey for us, that our lives are not simply one of random wandering. Our lives are not simply journeying beneath an empty sky or an empty night, but rather there is a way that is set before us. And upon that way, we are going to discover something very true and remarkable. Think about what I have read for you here. The eyes of the blind shall be opened, the ears of the deaf unstopped, the lame shall leap like a deer. We go on, water shall break forth in the wilderness, the burning sand shall become a pool, the grass shall become reeds and rushes. Everything that the people of Israel will discover along this way is going to be made new. The opposite of that to which they have been accustomed is going to unfold before them. If the sand was burning, now it is going to become a place of water. it is going to become a place of life. If those who were blind and journeying in that darkness, now they will see. The haunt of jackals will be no more. The grass is now going to flourish with reeds and bushes. Everything is going to be transformed along that way that has been set before the people of Israel. Now, you may remember that on many occasions, I have said to you that I believe that, from my reading of the Bible, I believe that the most important word in the Bible is the simple conjunction, but. You'll hear in the New Testament, you will hear Jesus say over and over, he will say things like, the Pharisees have said this to you, but I say this. And it's something different and it's something new. Or he will say, you have heard it said, but I will say this. When Jesus speaks, that word but suggests for us that the opposite is going to happen. The old is going to be transformed into something radically new and radically different. What is happening here in this passage from the book of the prophet Isaiah is much like what Jesus will say with that conjunction but. For example, the sand was burning, but now it will become a pool. The lame were not able to walk, but now they shall leap like a deer. The tongue of the speechless could not be heard, but now they shall sing for joy. The path upon which God has laid out for his people is going to become one of tremendous discovery. It is going to become one in which little by little, step after step, season upon season, the opposite of what had been experienced is now going to be unveiled before the eyes of the people as they make their journey. God is setting out a path before us. As I have said, it's not simply a path upon which we will walk to that promised land. That would be wonderful enough in and of itself. But this path is a two-way street. This path is pointing us to a destination. Upon this path, we are going to see new things within our lives, the transformation of the past. But upon this path, we are also going to encounter the Messiah who is coming to us. The path upon which we journey is a path of discovery within our lives. It is a path of encounter. It is a path in which we encounter the world in new ways. It is a path in which we encounter one another in new ways. It is a path in which new communities are fashioned so that we are no longer solo wanderers in these deserts, but rather we are a gathered people who walk this path together. And ultimately, it is a path that lifts our gaze so that we might see the Messiah who is journeying to us. David in wonderful psalm says, "From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth." Actually, David begins, "I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth." David similarly speaks of that road in which he will discover help. But he lifts up his gaze. He raises his eyes to see that place from which his help will come. And it is in that same mood that we might live our lives. It is in that very same spirit that we might look to the future. It is a very different kind of future than one to which we have often been accustomed. It is a future in which there is meaning and purpose to be discerned, fullness of life to be discovered. Now, does that mean that this path is going to be easy, that this path is going to be simple, that this path is going to be one upon which we can skip and run and jump? No, because we know that being people of faith does not mean that we are absolved of all of the world's difficulties and all of the world's challenges. But the revelation of a path opens our eyes to what is yet to come and what we might anticipate even in this moment. The anticipation that fills our hearts is one that makes the path upon which we journey, it gives us, I should say, it gives us the strength and even the confidence to place one foot after another. Keep in mind the people of Israel as they wandered, it certainly was not easy. That path to the land of Jordan was filled with challenges and it was filled with difficulties. But the destination was attained by the grace and mercy of God. And I think what I would share with you as the big takeaway, if you will, from all of this is to know that God has laid out a highway, that God has laid out a road in our own wildernesses. And it is a road that will, as I have said, not absolve us from the challenges and the heartache within life, but it is a road that gives us a path to find meaning and purpose as we live one day after another, as we live season upon season within the years of our lives. And it is a path that we may know to be a two-way street, that as we journey, God journeys to us. That as we take steps forward into the future, God comes to us into our present moment. And that is what the prophets seek to deliver. That good news is what the prophets seek to deliver to the people. It's what John the Baptist seeks to deliver to the people standing at the banks of the River Jordan. That as they prepare themselves, there is one who is coming to them. That as they take steps upon that path, there is one who is taking steps upon that path to greet them. And that is at the heart of this biblical message. That we are a people on a journey. We are an Exodus people, if you will. We are a people who can lift our eyes to the hills. And with a certain confidence within our hearts, we can place one foot after another. Soon you're going to literally do that. Our service is going to come to an end in just a few minutes. And you are going to get up and you are going to place one foot after another as you leave the sanctuary, as you leave the church, and as you go back into the world. As you do that, here's a very simple exercise to take with you. As you stand up and as you place one foot after another, keep in mind, hold on to this with each step that you take, that you are on a journey that God has laid out for you, and that you are on a journey in which God is coming to you. With each step that you take, God is taking a step in return. With each day through which you travel, God is traveling in return. It's a very simple exercise, but I think it's a very wonderful spiritual practice that we can be mindful of the steps that we take. We can be mindful of the newness of life that we may discern. For as the prophet says, you have seen burning sand, and here's that wonderful conjunction. You have seen burning sand, but now there will be pools of water. You have seen jackals around you, but now they will disperse. You have hungered and you have been thirsty in the desert, but now you will find good things to ease those pangs. One step after another. That is how we make a journey in this world. One step after another. That is how we pass through our days. So let us do so in the simplest of ways, but let us do so caringly and mindfully, calling to mind that the journeys that we take are journeys that God in Jesus Christ takes himself to meet us, to greet us, and to say that indeed all things will be made new.